Hello and welcome to another exciting tutorial working with JavaScript, AJAX, jQuery, Bootstrap, PHP, and MySql. What we're going to do here, I'm going to illustrate what we're going to do here today with this example. First of all, if you type in a bogus email or one that's not in the system, and you hit reset password, you'll see, are you sure you entered the correct email? So you don't want to give the people an absolute, you just ask them if they're sure, because to protect from hackers and spammers and so on and so forth. So this lost password script, we will put in a valid email address, max@a1websitepro.com, and let me show you the database structure here. You can see that the username is Maximus, the email, and here's the password, the encrypted password, along with the timestamp registration date. So if I hit reset password, you'll notice that an email gets sent to the person that lost their password with a reset link. And the email example goes like this. They're going to get an email that looks like this with a link in it to reset their password. And when they click that link in their email, they're going to come here to this page. Now, remember that long encrypted password? That's what we're going to use to display this page. For example, if we take off the 6 on the end in the encrypted password, we're just going to show them dummy text. Is it not a wonderful day? Okay, but now that we have a valid URL taken from this password encrypted, we're going to go ahead and let the people reset their password. And I'll reset the password to QQQ. Hit change password. Now your password is changed, and then you could send them where you created the login script. All right, so let me go over this on how this works a little bit. So first we make the lost password form in AJAX. It sends it to a PHP processor, and it sends an email if it's true, and it also sends results back to this page. Now it'll send the email message with a reset link in it, like we illustrated. Once they click that link, if it's true, it'll display the password change form. If it's not, it'll display something else, like we said, isn't it not a wonderful day? If they enter in the new password, it'll send a new password to another PHP processor to change the password and display the results, and then it'll send the results back to this form here. Okay, so this is the structure that we're going to follow. So without further ado, let's dive right in, and I'll show you how we program this. All right, we start out with the bare bones of an HTML document. We come in, we set the doc type to HTML, we set the language to English, and we give our head tag, a title within our head tag. And so let's go ahead and bring in the title. Okay. Let's go ahead and bring in our character set of UTF-8 for language. And we're going to need some links, some libraries to benefit from the AJAX and the Bootstrap styling. But first of all, we're going to put in a viewport so we're mobile friendly. And let's go ahead and bring in our libraries, and I'll just tell you what all these do right here. So these libraries here, this first one's a style sheet. It's our Bootstrap style sheet, and we're bringing in the minified version of CSS. The next two libraries we bring in are scripts. This one is jQuery, coming from Google, and it's also the minified version. The next one is the Bootstrap script tag. Okay, so it's different from this. This is the style sheet, this is the script, and that source is coming from MaxCDN Bootstrap. Okay, so let's go ahead and start diving into the body. So we'll come down here, open up a few, and we'll start out with a div class of container, and I'll put in our form items and describe what's going on here. So let's pop this in at line 12. So we start with a div class of container. This is what Bootstrap needs to display the page well. And then we put in a class of form group, and then the label for email, the input ID of email, The class is form control. This is what Bootstrap uses to style your input fields. The type here is going to be email. And the reason why we use this in Bootstrap is if they don't enter an email, it will not take. And I'll illustrate that for you after we get this code all in place. The placeholder is your email, and then we close out the div of class of form group. The next thing we do is we construct a button. The type is submit. The ID is submit. And the class is, there's two classes here, BTN and BTN default. And that's what Bootstrap uses to style the button. And we call that button resert password and close out the button tag. We use this div ID here to display whatever comes back from the processor.php file that we'll be constructing. So let's go ahead and dive into the script, and we'll go over the script with you. And this is the script. Okay, so the script, here's the starting script tag, the closing script tag, and we use document ready function, making sure the DOM is ready. Okay, if it is, we're looking for someone to click on the submit button, the ID of submit. When that's clicked, we're going to grab a couple variables. The first one is from the email. Well, actually, we're only going to grab one variable, but we're going to set two. So whatever is put in this ID of email, okay, we are going to grab that value and store it into a script variable called EM. We're then going to take the EM variable right here and store it into another variable called EM1 for our post variables, and then we're going to store that in our data string. Okay. The next thing that we're going to do is call the AJAX function. The type is going to be post. The URL we're going to post to is processor.php. And then we're going to take the data string right here to submit to the processor.php. We're going to set cache to false, so it doesn't cache anything. On success, we're going to call the function of result, and we're going to target the display div up here, and whatever comes back from that PHP processor, we're going to display it in the inner HTML in this div, whatever result that is. Finally, we're going to close out a couple of the AJAX request, and then we're going to return false so it doesn't keep executing over and over again. And then we're going to close out our parentheses and our curly brackets from the document ready function and the click function. Finally, we close out our script tag and the div tag for the container div right here. Okay, and that's what that is there. Okay, so that's the step one. And now let's go on to step two, the processor.php. But I did tell you that I was going to show you about the email verification. So if we go up here and we type in, let's go ahead and go back to our AJAX. Refresh, and we type in something that's not an email. If we have verification, it'll say please include. See where it says please include an @ in the email address. Okay, missing the @ sign. Okay, so that's what we want to be sure to do. All right, so let me go ahead and copy all this, paste it in there, and now let's work on the processor. So the processor is going to take whatever we put in here, and it's going to process the information. So let's go ahead and start out with including our config file. So include config, and if we open, let's go ahead and grab the config file here real quick so you see what it looks like. This is the config file. Basically, we're making a connection to localhost, database username, our password, and our database name. Okay. And if it fails to connect, it's going to give us an error. All right, so that's what that include config does. Let's grab our post variables and sanitize them using PHP. Okay, so we're taking the post variable of EM1, which we're getting right here, EM1, and we are sanitizing it with MySql real escape string, and we're storing it in a variable called email. We take that variable and we filter it and sanitize it even further. Filter sanitize email and filter flag strip high. We actually do not need that one. I could take that out of there. Okay. And we store this in a variable called email clean. So this is our clean variable. Now we have to query the database. And so let's show you that here. So we're going to query the database, and the result equals our connection that we're getting from our config file. We're going to query select all from users where email is the variable of email clean, and we're getting that right here after we sanitized everything. And we're going to set the limit to 1. Okay, so as soon as it goes there, we're going to have it stop looking. Now we're going to use a num rows in MySql in PHP, and we're going to set a variable of total, and we're going to grab whatever result is here, grab the num rows to make sure there is a result in there. Okay, but if there's not a result, we should do something. Okay, so let's discuss this for a second. So if the total is less than 1, if this did not even find one result, we're going to do a div class alert warning. This is a Bootstrap alert. And then we say, are you sure you entered the correct email? Okay, and then we're going to die the script or exit the script with this die PHP function. Okay. The next thing that we're going to do, if we do have more than one result, we need to grab the password and the email, and we do that with a while loop. Okay, so we're going to go back to the result. We're going to go back to this query, and we're going to fetch the association, which is a PHP function, and we're going to store it in a variable called row. And now we're going to take this row of email and store it into a variable called email with an extra L. And the row of password we're going to store in password. And if we take a look at the PHP myadmin, you can see here's the email we're looking for and here's the password we're looking for. Okay? All right, are you with me so far? All right, finally, let's go ahead and create the email script, the one that sends an email to the person trying to reset their password, right? So we're just going to give it a subject line of password reset link. We're going to set headers to MIME-version 1.0, and then the content type is going to be text HTML, so we could actually send them a hyperlink, and the character set is UTF-8. Finally, we're going to set a header from no reply at, we could say, yourwebsite.com. And then the message, we're going to style it with a table. Since we're using text HTML, we can use tables within the message. So I'm going to make this table width of 100. I'm going to give it a border of 1. I'm going to come down here, make a table row, a table column with a column span of 2. Make the text align in the center so they look better. Reset your password by clicking the link below. Finally, we're going to close that out and close out the row. Okay, the next table row, we're going to start with the table column, give it a column span of 2, align the text to the center. If you did not make this request, then ignore this email. Then we're going to close out our column and close out our row. We're going to make another table row. In the table column, we're going to give it a column span of 2. We're going to, once again, align the text to the center, and there we're just going to put a link right here, and you'll notice the lost password.php and this little question mark, then the P equals, notice the password that we're getting from our while loop up here, okay? And then we close out that link, and we close out that URL string and link it, anchor link it to reset password. We close out our little anchor link there, close out our column and the table row, start one more table row, and then this is a column span of 200. Once again, we're going to align to the center, and we're just going to put an image in there from A1 Website Pro. That's just our logo. We're going to set the width to 200 pixels, close out that table column, close out that table row, and then finally close out the table. Now when you guys do this, and want to test it out, see if it sends you an email, just uncomment those lines right there. Okay, uncomment those lines and it will send an email to the person that's in your database. I will also be providing the database structure at A1 Website Pro on this post. Okay, now we have to send everything back to AJAX and then close our connection to our database. Okay, so let's pop that in there. Okay, so we're going to echo this div class, this Bootstrap class, alert-success. An email has been sent to whoever is requesting the password reset with a password reset link. And then finally we're going to close. So this is going to send back to this. All right? And that's the way that works. Now finally, when they click the link going to their lost password, you have to write this script here, lostpassword.php with that question mark of P. And that's what we're going to do here. So whenever they click the link in their email, they're going to be coming back to this page right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and put in some code right here. Let me explain it to you. I'm going to put it in right after the head tag. Okay, so we have it right towards the top. We have to include our config.php once again, which is located here, our connection to our database. And I'm going to set a variable of old p, short for old password, and then get p. All right, how does that work? Well, whenever they get the email there, you understand that there's a question mark here, then a p equals whatever this password is. Okay, the password in this database right here. Okay, so they're going to click on that link and it's going to come to here and it's going to have a question mark after the .php equals p, and that's how we're going to get that URL variable, okay, that string in there. We could give it a title of, get password. All right, so let's go ahead and bring in our libraries and set our character set once again in our head tag after the title. And so there we go. We're setting our character set for our languages to UTF-8. Our meta name, viewport, just in case they're on mobile devices or tablet, cell phone. Our link relation to our style sheet, once again, we're including that in the min.css for our Bootstrap. Okay, here's our script sources. Our jQuery coming from Google, our Bootstrap coming from MaxCDN. All right, let's go ahead and dive into our container and let's go ahead and make a query. We'll explain what's going on here. All right, so we open a Bootstrap class of container and we start with a PHP tag. And what we're going to do is set a variable of result equals con, and we're going to query the database. We're going to select all from users where password equals old p, and we're going to limit that to 1. So we're getting old p from right here, okay, from whatever URL string is in the URL string coming from the HTTP request, okay? All right, so that's where we're getting that from. Now let's go ahead and drop down another line, and what we're going to do is we're going to count the num rows once again, okay? So this result here, will give us the num rows, and we're going to store it in a variable called total. Now we're going to go ahead and do something with this here. We're going to alert a warning if it's not at least 1. So here we go. If the total is less than 1, we're going to echo a class alert warning. This is, again, Bootstrap classes. Is it not a wonderful day? So somebody's there and they're just trying to reset somebody's password, okay? It's going to be next to impossible for them to guess that encrypted password. So we've got to give them something here that, they wouldn't recognize, what do you mean, is it not a wonderful day? So they'll probably get there by mistake, or you could put it 404 error page not found, or something like that. You could do something like that if you feel more comfortable with that. Okay, so let's go ahead and go on to our else statement. Okay, so we're going to set an else statement like this here, and we're going to start into our while loop. And let me go ahead and put that in here because this is going to be our AJAX. So while row equals result, so we're setting a variable of row. From result from the query right here, we're going to fetch the association, okay? And then we're going to grab the row of email, okay? And we're going to store that in a variable called email, okay? We're going to do that so that we can use it further down in the script. And this is where we display the form, okay? So we're actually right here right now. Okay, so they're back here, and so if it's true, display the password change form. Okay, so we're right here. And that's what we're working on right now. So if we go here and go over this, we're setting a div class of form group. This is Bootstrap. The label for password equals new password. The input ID for password. This is where we're going to use AJAX to grab the values from. The class is form control. The type is password, so you get the little dots up instead of text. And the placeholder is new password. We close that div. Next, we have an input type of hidden. Okay, now this isn't visible on the page itself. Okay, but we give it an ID of email. Now notice the value that we have in here is emails. Where are we getting that from? We're getting that from this variable right here. Okay, so they'll enter a new password here and they won't even see this value, but they will see this little button, and the type is submit, the ID is submit, and the class, once again, Bootstrap BTN is a class, BTN default is another class, and they both get applied to this button. And then we call it change password. We close out the button tag, and now here we have the display ID of div, or the div ID of display, and we are going to be displaying whatever we get back from our AJAX from our lost password processor into that. Now finally, we're going to have the script to make it all happen. We don't want the script to echo unless they have a successful request from the HTTP string. Okay, so let's go over this script. So we start our script tag. It's going to come back with the rest of this stuff, and we look for the document ready function. Once again, we look to see if anybody clicked on the submit button right here, and if they clicked on it, we're going to set a couple of variables. All right, the first one we're going to grab is the password, which they entered there. The next one, we're going to grab that hidden value of email, which is located right here. Okay, and we're going to store the password in a variable called PW and the email in a variable called EM. And you can see those right here and here. We take them, we store them, the email in EM1. We take the password PW and store it in PW1, and we store all that entire post variable data into a variable called data string. Okay, now we're going to make our AJAX request, and the type is going to be post. The URL is going to go to lost password processor, and we're going to take the data string, okay, the data string right here, and we're going to post it to there. We're going to set the cache to false. On success, we're going to call another function, whatever the result was, we're going to target that display div ID up here once again and display the results coming back from the lost password processor.php. Okay, we're going to close out these curly brackets. We're going to set return to false so it doesn't keep executing. And then finally, we're going to close out our document ready function right here. Close out our script tag, and then close out our PHP right here, and then we're back into our body tag. All right, so the last thing that we have to develop is this lost password processor.php, and we'll develop that right here. Okay, and this is going to be a short one, I promise. We come in here, And we start with, of course, include once our config file, which our config file, once again, is located here. This is the key to our database. The next thing we want to do is we want to sanitize the strings, okay, and then encrypt the password. So let me go ahead and pop that in here real quick. All right, so we're taking the PW1 from the lost password, where the AJAX is posting to the lost password, and we're going to store it in a variable called PW. We're going to sanitize a string here once again, the password. We're going to store it into PW clean. So it's coming down, it's grabbing the post variable, storing it in PW, sanitize, PW clean. Now we take PW clean, okay, and we encrypt the password with SHA1 and MD5 and store it into a variable called hash, okay. Now we go grab the EM1 variable, which of course is the email. We sanitize it with MySql real escape string. Don't forget we have to have our connection to our database, which is located in the config file in both of these. We store it into a variable called EM. We take EM and we sanitize, filter sanitized email, which is a PHP function. Once again, we do not need this to sanitize emails. There's no flags. Calling this function a filter var, and now we have EM clean. All right, now what do we got to do next? Well, we have to update the password in the database finally and send results back to the script. So we do a MySql query, a con, that's coming from the config file. We want to update users set password to hash that we got right here, where email is EM clean, email clean. All right. We don't want anybody putting any injections in there. Finally, we're going to echo a div, a Bootstrap class of alert and alert success, two different classes, and let the people know your password has changed. And then right here, you want to give a link to the login script. You don't want to leave this hash here. You want to give a link to your login script. And then when they click that button, they can go there. Finally, we're going to close out our connection to our database, close out our PHP tag, and that is it. And we get back with what we started with at the beginning of the tutorial. So once again, we display a form, lost password form with AJAX in it. It submits to a PHP processor, sends that result back to the form. Okay. It will also send this script here also sends an email with a reset link in it. Once they click on that link, if it's true, it'll display the password change form. Okay, and it'll send the new. If they enter a new password, it'll send the new password to this script, which is another PHP processor that will change the password and send the results back to this form here. All right. I know this was a lengthy tutorial, but good luck to you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to go to A1 Website Pro on this post. The link is in the description. And if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask. This is Max with A1 Website Pro. I hope you found this video tutorial useful.